unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Former Gennady Golovkin trainer Abel Sanchez says this one may hurt. Canelo versus Triple G3, and Triple G could get hurt by Canelo in the trilogy fight. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing if you want to become part of the gang. Notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Speaking of Patreon, head over to Patreon. I got a new revamped tier system. I'm going over there. I'm publishing content, and we're getting it cracking. I had some time to think on this quarantine, and I wanted to do more for the Patreon people, or actually get started, and also the channel members. So I'm shifting some content over there. So if you want to be a part of that, the extended Ego family, you can check it out. Click on the link, hit the join button. We working. Also, ESPN Plus. Sign up for ESPN Plus. I got a bundle going. ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu. All three apps, $12.99 a month. Maybe help you get through this quarantine with some supplemental content since we have no live boxing. It does help the channel grow in a phenomenal way. Helps us. I just bought a lot of gear and equipment, and it just helps us keep on trucking. So if you'd like to support the channel, those are some great ways that you can do it. Now, smash the like button if you're new. Consider subscribing. I drop daily content. I do live streams. I cover fights when the fights are going on, when we're not quarantined and locked down. And, you know, we have some fun over here. So make sure you guys subscribe if you're new. And if you're a regular, enjoy the video and hit the like button. So Abel Sanchez did an interview with The Athletic. He had some very interesting things to say that I want to talk about in this video. Let's jump right to it. Abel Sanchez, former Gennady Golovkin. Hey, no, guys, hey, Max, every tick, his punch is nothing. Max, you know, the old trainer of Golovkin, this is what he had to say. Abel Sanchez says, quote, "This one," referring to the trilogy fight with Canelo, "this one maybe will hurt. Not because I'm not with him, but it could hurt because Golovkin gets hurt." He goes on to say it's the most dangerous because you're talking about a guy in Canelo Alvarez who is at his peak right now and believes he can do the same thing to Gennady that he did to Sergey Kovalev. Canelo baited and waited for the right moment and caught Kovalev. It was destructive. He goes on to say, "I would hate to see Gennady go into that fight, or I would rather not see the fight than to see Triple G succumb to something like that, not being prepared physically and mentally." End quote. Very interesting comments. Some people are going to say Abel Sanchez is hating because Triple G has dumped him and replaced him and went with another trainer. Or, you know, this could be a guy who spent a lot of time with another guy and trained him and developed a kinship and a brotherhood, and you know, boxing is a fraternity, and he could be genuinely concerned. Either way you slice it, whatever you think the intent behind Abel Sanchez's comments, you can't really deny that this is a plausible outcome. And so much so, if you guys listen to my videos, watch my videos, all in the videos, you'll notice I've said the same thing. New media. How many times do I have to tell you guys? We control the narrative. Everything starts with new media, digital mob. Shout out to Ego's Army. Shout out to the channel members and the Patreon family. I told you, you guys are in good hands. You guys see it. A lot of what we discuss before it becomes major topics in boxing, and then you start hearing more and more people, the celebrity trainers and the boxers themselves, former champions, current champion, they start sounding just like new media. So, you know, we're the driving force behind boxing. I told you, Canelo versus Triple G, for my personal taste, I have very little interest in that fight. I think the outcome is a foregone conclusion. There's not many ways you can break that fight down. You know, yes, you could say, oh, it's boxing, anything could happen. But I deal with likelihoods and probability and patterns and rhythms. Golovkin just turned 38 years old, and based on his style and what we've seen from him recently, what is there to lead me to believe that Golovkin is going to turn back the hands of time and put on this tour de force performance, this virtuoso performance like Mayweather Gotti, when he hasn't shown that? First of all, ever since Gennady Golovkin, he was the boogeyman at a point. I give him that, because people didn't know about him. He was a foreign dude from Kazakhstan, and he was knocking people out. Lower competition though, but people were shook because they're like, man, this guy, he's looking like a beast, and he hadn't been exposed or anything. But he kept fighting run-of-the-mill type of guys moving up in weight and things like that, guys that weren't really anywhere near his level. Plus, you have to keep in mind when Abel Sanchez was with him and when they had that reign and the HBO run, the middleweight division was pretty stagnant and dry. That's not the case now because Demetrius Andrade moved up, former 154-pound champion, Olympian, undefeated guy. Jamal Charlo has since moved up, undefeated guy, power puncher, talker, confident, knocked out another guy who was champion, J-Rock, So you have an emergence of guys like the Deryevchenkos, the Charlos, the Andrades, Canelo, who have since moved in and moved up to that division or made a name for themselves that weren't as prominent when Golovkin first, touched down on U.S. soil and started fighting and having it broadcast on HBO. So what makes me believe that Golovkin at age 38, he just had a birthday, what makes me believe that he has something for Canelo now? You look at the first two fights. The first fight I covered as credentialed media, right? The first fight, Canelo Alvarez, started off well, but then he kind of lost his way. I thought Golovkin won the fight, but it was closer than what people said. We all know Adelaide Bird's scorecard was horrendous, but overall, I thought Triple G etched it out, and he should have won that fight. They said it was a draw. You see? Close fight, champion, thought he won at the time, Triple G. He etched out. Then the second fight, Triple G, the second fight was supposed to happen previously, but Canelo failed a drug test. And then after he failed a drug test, there was like strict protocol and pressure for him to do VADA year round and stuff. So I don't think he was eating meat because he looked a lot lighter. And I was hearing that he wasn't eating meat and stuff like that because he had just failed for the clenbuterol. So he didn't want to take any chances. So he came back in the second fight looking a lot lighter, just in general, in some of the build-up photos and stuff like that. And he was backing up Triple G for the first 8 rounds or so, doing very good. It was around the 8th round, round 9, Triple G kind of went for broke and was able to produce some success in those later rounds, which made his performance a little bit more redeemable. But prior to that moment, it was looking like Triple G was looking old, he was looking wilted, and he can't fight on the back foot, which is something that De La Hoya said from the beginning, something that I've said on the beginning. If you can drive him back, Triple G is the type of person, and I know some of you guys are going to be weirded out when I say this, but he doesn't like to be hit. And I'm not saying any boxer just prefers to be punched brutally in the face, but he has a weird reaction to when he does get hit. He almost looks shocked that you would even throw a punch that hard at him, even though he has a crazy chin. And that's what I never understood about it. He has a great chin. Triple G has a great chin, but he still I don't like his reaction. He like freezes and pauses. He's not used to it. He has to get back on his jab, and he tries to move his head after that a little bit. Not really great head movement or anything. But the bottom line is I thought Canelo won the second fight, and I thought he did it pretty dominantly, except for when he started to wilt towards the end of the fight, but definitely did enough to clearly win the fight. So since that time, Canelo has moved all the way up again and fought at 168 and destroyed Rocky Fielding, not a big name, but still some guy with a fake version of a belt. Then he moved up again. I'm not going in chronological order because he did fight Jacobs in between this, but I'm just giving you guys the cliff notes, the abridged version. Then he moved up again and knocked out Kovalev. So he's already campaigned at 2 weight classes higher than 160 since he's fought Golovkin. Previously, his only fight over 160 was the fight right before the Golovkin fight, the first fight, where he moved up to 164.5 and fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. at a catchweight. But the difference between that is Chavez was likely weight drained because he doesn't know how to manage his weight and have the discipline. And Canelo was coming up straight from 154 to 164.5. So Canelo got tired in that fight too, but he jumped up 10 pounds, like massive weight gain, to do the Chavez Jr. fight. So he wasn't really acclimated. But since that time, since the Golovkin second fight, he's definitely acclimated to 160 or better because he has the Chavez Jr. fight at a catchweight. You know, he has the Golovkin second fight. And then since the Golovkin second fight, he moved up, as I mentioned, to 168 for Rocky Fielding, moved to 60 for Jacobs, and then he moved all the way up to 175. So it's just, I really have no interest. I don't know why DAZN is so insistent on making the fight. I think the outcome is a foregone conclusion. The other thing that scares me with that particular fight is, can Canelo even make 160? Would he give a guy who's, you know, giving him some issue for the first 2 fights, would he give him an advantage, like coming from 168 back down to 160? Because if Canelo felt even a little bit weight drained, then that could be problems because this guy is giving you problems. Or would Canelo make Triple G fight him at a catchweight, make him fight at 168 or better, you know, 175 or something? So that's another reason I don't want to see, because I just feel like it's going to be some BS. It's going to be either at a catch weight higher than 160, 168. I doubt 175, but that would just be ridiculous, you know, and I wouldn't put it past it. Or it's going to have crazy rehydration clauses and, you know, weight stipulations per usual. So when you factor this whole fight in, you know, the way Canelo moves and how Triple G's been looking, I just really give no hope to Triple G. Because even your best performance out of the first 2 was the first fight for sure. And you won the most rounds in the first fight, and they still said it was a draw. And not only did they say it was a draw, Adelaide Byrd had a scorecard that was like 10 rounds to 2. Ridiculous. They had it ridiculous for Canelo. So if you put up that type of effort, which I thought was solid, I don't think it was like a landslide victory, but it was solid. And at best you get a draw, and one judge has you only winning 2 rounds. You look worse in the second fight. What do you think is going to happen in the third fight? So I don't blame Abel Sanchez. I don't know if he's being sincere or if he's just saying this because it's a podcast, but secretly, since he got, you know, replaced, really wanting Triple G to lose, you know, because some people aren't going to just come out and say that, but they'll be happy. Just think about if you had an employer and they fired you and then they file for bankruptcy or something, you'd be snickering at home. Like, oh, you guys did this to me and look what happened to you. You know, that's just human nature. So I don't know if Triple G, and I'm not saying Abel is being like that. I'm just saying it's a possibility. So I don't know if he's just saying this for the podcast, like, oh, I feel bad. But the great thing is when relationships sour and things like that, the truth tends to come out. Either way, it's not looking good for Gennady Triple G Golovkin. Like I said, between poor scoring, Canelo being the man, so imposing certain weight stipulations, Golovkin being another year older, 38 years old, you know, between the fact of Triple G's whole career, he's never really showed separation against anyone elite. Anyone you thought was elite, Jacobs, Derevyanchenko, Canelo, he's never really blown them out of the water. The people he blew out of the water were basically guys you knew had no chance, 50-1 underdog, 80-1 underdog, stuff like that. So it's just looking grim for Triple G. Beyond that, you look at his recent performances. Even in the Steve Rolls fight, he did that after a long layoff, and Steve Rolls was pretty much tagging him early in the fight. I don't think Triple G looked so great. This didn't look like Triple G versus Macklin. This didn't look like Triple G versus Rosado, Triple G versus Marco Antonio Rubio. This looked like, you know, an aged Triple G and less hungry and less determination. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes when you lose your undefeated record, that might have been what you were preserving. And that kind of takes you from an immortal to a mortal. You're just a mere mortal now because you're no longer perfect. It just depends on the fighter, you know? So Triple G could have lost some of his edge and lost some of his hunger. Like, man, I fought Canelo twice and didn't effectively get the victory, you know? So that could be discouraging. You don't know what he did in the offseason. He could have, because even in his offseason, I would see pictures after the Canelo second fight when he actually lost his belts and stuff, and Triple G didn't look like he was in the best shape. So, you know, he looked like he was eating, and even leading up to the Canelo fight when they were doing the promo stuff, his body type looks like he's almost letting himself go in between fights a little bit. You know, he looked a lot of loose skin. Maybe it's just age. Maybe it's a lack of training. I don't know. But Golovkin's been a long time amateur. I'm telling you guys, he was an amateur for a long time. They said he had 350 plus fights or whatever it is. Sometimes maybe you're just tired. Maybe you're just tired of working out so much and boxing. You know, some people want to just chill and relax. They're getting older. They lose as a male grows older and matures. The older he gets, guys sometimes lose their sex drive and testosterone goes down and your metabolism begins to slow. These are natural things that happen in any natural male who's not on anything, not on TRT, not on PEDs or anything like that. So, you know, it could just be father time where he lost some of that competitive drive and that hunger and that testosterone, and maybe his body, because, you know, fighters don't always reveal and publicly display every injury that they go through, but sometimes people have like little hidden injuries that pop up that nobody knows about, and your body's not taken to it. Because you don't want to broadcast every single injury. So you could be getting banged up and injured and your legs hurting. Triple G was supposed to fight Camille Sesmeta before the pandemic, and then they said that he pulled out from the original February date because he hurt his calf and he got kicked out of the snack program. So all in all, it's just not a fight that I'm really interested in. I think we all know who's going to win, and I agree with Abel Sanchez. It could be by hostile takeover. Canelo is in prime. He's more in his prime years for a boxer. He has better defense, and he's fought at higher weights, and he's looked better overall, even though I don't think he looked great in the Kovalev fight. That fight looked FAF, as I keep saying. But Jacobs, he looked very sharp. Rocky Fielding, he destroyed. So he's had better, sharper recent performances and looks. And that's the thing when you have technical skills and fundamental skills, is even if you get tired, you still know what to do. You know how to buy time. You know how to, still throw a jab and still move a bit, even though you're arm weary or tired, your legs are tired. Triple G, he doesn't even have the style that has longevity in the sport typically, because he's not. The only guys that are like hunters like that aren't really super fundamentally sound, textbook, tactical counter punchers, you know, with overall boxing skill set, offense and defense, they usually have an X factor. You know what I'm saying? If they're not technical textbook guys with just great boxing fundamentals and they have longevity in the sport, then it's like a person like maybe a Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, he's not textbook at all. He's very awkward, very different, but he does have X factors. Like, he's still faster than the average person. He's unrhythmic, where he just has this weird do 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 boo do, and then moves, and he just, you know, he's just so damn experienced. He's a handful for anybody, and he's a southpaw, which gives a lot of orthodox fighters problems anyway. So that's a little bit different. Triple G's not fast. He doesn't have no killer footwork like that. He's not, you know, super awkward. He's not a southpaw. He's not ambidextrous like Terrence Crawford, or at least that we know of at a high level. And he hasn't even looked good recently. Canelo, Canelo, Canelo. Everything spells Canelo. I see if Abel Sanchez is being 100% real, I see why he's worried. I literally see no way Triple G can win. Because you mean to tell me Triple G at age 38 is going to produce the Canelo knockout that he hasn't been able to get in 24 rounds? Canelo just fought damn Kovalev at 175. And like I said, once you start adding the Canelo little factors in, that probably makes it worse for Triple G, because he already got things going against him, bad recent performances. That's only going to make Canelo more confident. But when you start adding in weight stipulations and rehydration clauses, and Canelo's getting the lion's share, and you get bullied in the negotiating table as well, then that only spells more trouble for Triple G. So I could see Triple G getting punished in this fight. I thought he lost the Deryevchenko fight. The game plan is there. He don't like the body shots. If I was Canelo, all I would do is do body shots for training camp. At this age, it don't look like he's equipped to deal with that. Let me know what you guys think. I can't wait. If they make the fight and then you guys holler at me after, and then we'll see what was what, like usual. Let me know what you guys think. Abel Sanchez is worried for Triple G, which is exactly what I told you guys on my channel, Eagles Army New Media. We the motherfucking digital mob. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.